G'day everyone, welcome back to Peace Lab. In today's episode I'm going to fix up this old meter that I picked up at a garage sale a couple of years ago. I really like this meter, it serves me well, but the clamp spring has failed. So I'm going to open that up and check out exactly what happened. So I certainly don't want to go in the bin. It's got a lot of years left of service. Once we tidy it up, I'm sure it'll be good to go. So let's get into it. I'll open up the back and see what we find. I flipped the old girl over, so we got access to the screws. We'll start by removing the battery. Take that screw out, slide the cover off, and tip it over and get access to that battery holder. Unclip the battery. Sometimes I have another screw down in the case there to hold everything together. It looks like those ones are clear. I've just got these two here to undo now. Go. Once you hear that clicking sound, you know the thread's jumping over itself and the screw's undone. Let's see if we can gently open this up without things flying apart. There we go. Everything's looking pretty good there. Got some short wires on that speaker. Be a little bit careful the way I lay it over. Just get my helping hands here. Prop that up against that. We'll have a look at what's given way. Something to do with this spring here. Looks like it's snapped. So, next thing I'll do is take these couple of screws out the clamp and see what's going on. That screw up there. I know that's from the clamp. And I'll put these two case screws together over here so we know where things are. It's still firm in there, so we do have to take both out. You see that one there's got a couple of washers, or at least one washer on there. I'll put that back on the screw, or the bolt. It's got a fine metal thread, so that's a bolt really, not a screw. We'll put them together over there. And now we'll gently lift that clamp out. Have a look at the spring there. Looks like the little tag that comes off the top here is snapped off. We'll take that spring out for a closer inspection. You can see by the way that metal is there, it's definitely been fractured and we've lost the tip off that spring. So I'm not sure what I'm going to come up with to fix that up. I'll see if I can find the other end. Work out what we're going to do. We'll take the hinge apart on the clamp. That little brass bushing just fell out. There's the hinge pin. Put that to the side. And we'll look for that little bit of metal that's snapped off. Can't see it anywhere. It may have fallen out through the side of the meter there, so do a bit more investigation and see what I need to do to fix this up. So it looks to me as though that spring should fit into that metal piece down there. There's a small hole right down in the corner there. I reckon it should poke through that and rest against the other piece of plastic there and provide tension. So I'll see if I can find another spring. If not, we may be able to just bend a little tag out on the one we got there. So there should be a little piece sticking up off the top of that spring there, rising up, that would locate into that little hole in there once you flip that over and press it on. I'll go online now and see if I can find a little spring. If not, we might have to jerry rig it. I've been through my box of bits and pieces out in the workshop. I found this torsion spring. It's from a downlight. So I'm hoping I can just reshape this a little and get it to look more like this. We'll line that up and I'll see what needs to be bent and tweaked a little bit to get it to work. But I'm pretty sure I can get something to happen with that. I'll go out to the shed now, take a few measurements, clip the excess off and bend that into shape. I'll just put the springs together there. I can make a mark on that new one, just about here, and cut that off now. Make that little bend in there and then work on the other end. I've lined the two springs up the other way now. Can make a mark where that right angle needs to be put to bring that spring straight up here and locate into that clamp. So I've pretty much got that spring cut to size. Now I've just got to open up the center a little bit. It's a little bit too tight. So I'll see if I can work on that with a pair of pointy nose pliers and then try and bend a right angle in it about where that blue line is and create a straight section out of that leftover piece up the end there. Might need a little bit of luck, we'll see how we go. I desoldered these little wires that go to the speaker. That made it easy to open the case right up. And I've bent that spring into shape. Cut it to length. Made it all fit. I finally found that little bit that snapped off. There it is. There's the other end of that spring. That'd come off of that little bit there. So anyway, I got that all made up before I found that. Now I'm going to slot it all back together and see how it goes. So down inside here you can see that spring pops back up through that little metal tag that forces the jaws together, and it's down in behind here and leans up against the side of that screw. I've put that brass bushing back in the hinge. So now we just put this screw back in the hinge, tighten that down. Just make sure all things are firm, not too tight. Don't want to crack the plastic. There we go, we'll give that a test. It's coming together. Once I get the back plate on, we'll hold everything square. I'm sure the operation will be no worries at all. I'll connect these speaker wires back up now. I've marked the polarity there. The outer ring was negative and the inner circle is the positive. Bring those cables out to the front. And then we'll just solder them back on. I I've turned the temperature of the iron down to about 280 Celsius. Only really fine wires, these ones. Just put a little fresh blob here. We'll join that negative on. There we go. Now I'll take this old blob off, clean my iron, add some fresh solder, and join that to that center tab there. There we go. Speaker's back in place. Screw that case back on. We'll see how it goes. I've pressed that cover together. Everything seems to be fitting okay. Make sure I didn't pinch any of those wires when we're putting it back on. That's beautiful. So now that cover's back on, it's holding everything in place and the clamp's coming together. I'll put the screws back in now and that'll finish things right off. Just wind the screw backwards. You hear that click? That means you've found the thread and you can start going forwards. Sometimes you'll strip out the thread if you start winding it in at the wrong point under pressure. So I'll just wind it backwards again and you'll be able to hear it. There it is. Once you get that click, you know you're in the thread. And gently wind that down. Do the same here. Slowly backwards. There we go. It's found the thread. Wind it in, not too tight, just firm. Connect the battery. Put the cover back on. That little short screw goes in there. Same thing, I'll just go backwards for a sec. There we go. And that's it, she's back together. Pretty happy with that. It may not last as long as the original one, but I'm happy to give it a crack and get my meter going again at no cost. We'll test out the features now. Make sure that speaker's working. Perfect. And now we can test the current with that clamp meter. I'll go and grab my test lead. We'll plug something in and give it a check. I've got the clamp meter test lead plugged in there. I can put the coil around that wire, measure the current flowing. It's going to run that lamp. So I've got a little desk lamp there. That'll provide the load. We'll bring the meter over. We'll set that to AC amp. It's going to be pretty low current. It's an LED bulb. So we'll put that on 20. Put that around the test lead. Got a good connection there on the coil of the clamp. We'll turn that light on now. 0.03 of an amp. I'll get something that draws a little bit more current now, and maybe something that I know how much it draws, so we can make sure that meter is calibrated to the load. I went and got the kettle from the kitchen. If we take a look at the back here, got 1850 to 2200 watts. So fairly high current. We'll plug that in now and just check that the meter's working correctly. I'll also get one of my other clamp meters and we can cross-reference that and make sure it's correct. So now we'll plug the kettle into that test lead. Switch the meter on. Not going to be more than 20 amps. So I'll leave that on 20 amps. You can see there we're drawing 0.01. We've got the LEDs up, so the electronics is already drawing some current. And then we'll start the boil. .6 amps. It's just drawing a bit there. That's working okay. I'll go and grab the other clamp meter and we'll double check it. Got the trusty flute meter out. We'll set that to amps. And we'll put that on the cable. And we'll start that kettle again. .2. Can even put that other clamp on there. I've got some new water there. It's a bit cooler. Repeat that test and just double check again. .3 amps. .2 amps. It's only about 0.1 out. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. It's going to be good enough for everything I'm doing. I'm going to count that as a win. An old downlight spring. Fixed up one of my favourite meters. Saves that going in the bin. Well, not really the bin, but now my clamp meter's working again. I'm pretty happy with that. Gives it a new lease on life. So thanks for watching Beast Lab. I hope you enjoyed that episode and you learn a little bit. Take it easy and we'll catch you in the next one.